adjusting going on this time.
Yeah. And we have the handshake. Which pawn will Magnus Carlsen push? It's the queen's pawn, the D pawn. And Wesley reacts instantly by bringing his knight out. Much more classical stuff. Mac might have lost his last opportunity to play 1b3 on the Champions Chess Tour this season with white. But here we go, one of the main lines of the Queen's Gambit. The Berlin of 1d4, as we call it, where often queens get traded off very early. Magnus Carlsen defeated Fabiano Caruana in this opening just a couple of days ago, but this time he pushes his knight to the more normal square, not the central square that he used against Fabiano. And this is a very well-known position, Robert.
Yeah, for here, Wesley so brings his bishop out. White can take this bishop on e6 at any moment, but first, Magnus was bishop d2, and to my eyes, that's a bit of an odd move because white wants to castle the king towards the queen side and get a rook check along the d-file, but that bishop will block the rook's path. So bishop e2, a very interesting move here, just kind of throwing a curveball at Wesley.
Yeah, again, it feels like one of those openings, Magnus Carlsen. He's just testing the opponent. This is modern, often the top players, they study these types of openings, these forcing lines, queens coming off, center opening, they study them for tens of hours, hundreds of hours even, and often they know everything under the sun in the main lines. But if you test them with these small ideas, these odd-looking ideas, white's bishop on a really passive square, do have scope to go wrong. That's what happened when Magnus met Fabiano a few days ago, and look at that, Wesley just peering off at the opponent. How much does Magnus know? Wesley has got to assume he's walking into some preparation, so just surviving these next few moves will be step one for Wesley So.
First question on the board by Magnus Carlsen as he plays a non-standard move in this position. Definitely an opening that Wesley knows so well, is so familiar with, but yet it makes him pause and burn some time on the clock. It's all about finding the right setup for your pieces here with black, and also we shouldn't be fooled by the queens being traded off. This isn't Magnus being non-ambitious or just going into an Armageddon. He wants to try to grind down the center. He's going to play this out till the very end.
It's a really clever move, actually. If we dive into the specifics a bit, it does take away one of black's key resources with the dark square bishop, and the threat, if you want to call it that, or at least the idea of knight takes bishop from white taking this bishop near the black king side, that's not out of the question either. So he just plays a tricky move order. Wesley develops his knight, the e4 pawn can be grabbed, the white king can castle queen side if he wants, but he first takes this pawn e4, and he has equalized the material, but Magnus still has the right to castle, but Wesley does not.
Yeah, that black king could come under heavy fire. Yes, the queens are off, there's not going to be direct checkmate attacks, but if you imagine white castling the white rook centralizing, black's king will be caught in no man's land. So right now, it's looking very, very level. It's just the lack of castling rights for black, but there is also a bit of a threat of white's knight going back where it came from if white's ever able to trade off white's knight for black's light square bishop, a long-term advantage. And it's all about cage around this rook. I think the most natural move in the position as well. White's dark square bishop just slides into c5, cutting off the rook's access to the 5th rank. It's caught in a cage on its own, trapped by a bishop and pawn, and that rook will fall off the board.
Magnus could wrap up match victory and the Champions Chess Tour final, and he finds it. The black rook on b5 is trapped. He had to fight against the threats of a4. He steps in with a knight to try and grab that bishop on c5. But now that check on h5 that we were earlier alluding to, that's a square that isn't defended anymore. Bishop h5, f5 are these ideas that are possible right now.
You could go for that. You could just drop the bishop back to e2 and say, give me your rook, because he didn't sacrifice the rook. He got his rook trapped and he's going to regret it. So he's trying to give up his rook for the dark square bishop, maybe get a pawn in return. But I think that for Wesley So here, he is hoping that some tactics will work out in his favor with a knight c3 jump, things of that nature. I don't actually believe that it should pan out, and Magnus now, he's about to retreat the bishop.
And he's so indecisive. And then he finally plays bishop to e2. Now, under a minute, he goes for material, and Wesley, jumping in to pick up the other bishop, has to give a check because the knight would have taken the bishop. There was a skewer on c4.
Yeah, now jumping out of the way with a check has meant that the white bishop for now is out of the eye line of the black knight. White's rook can save itself by gaining time against black's knight. Wesley, he's trying to hold things together with tactics, but they don't work. We see the evaluation bias through the roof. Magnus Carlsen will win. If he finds this move, he hits the black knight. No good squares for this knight. If it moves, white can't save his bishop. Magnus Carlsen now should be winning. The bishop jumps in. This is skew on the white rooks.
So many pieces are under attack. The bishop on h5 is open. I think you could throw in a check, bring your rook forward in the position, but many loose pieces. He does deliver that check, and Wesley's king goes forward rather than back. You didn't want to have your king flashing. There would have been a skewer. Okay, Magnus brings his rook back with another check, and he's up in exchange.
Yeah, the other white rook will save itself. I think we might be seeing the last few moves of the 2023 Champions Chess Tour. Magnus Carlsen will save his remaining rook on f1, swing it across. Black's knight, black's bishop are skewered. Any moment now, we need to see both players. We might see a handshake.
We see Magnus, he continues. The knight and the rook are lined up. Magnus under 20 seconds, but it's going to be enough. Wesley, is he about to give up?
It's hopeless. Nothing to do. Look at the black pieces. Will drop off, and he's trying one or two final tricks here, Wesley. So, but look at this. Both pieces forked.
That's it. Magnus Carlsen does it. We have a winner. It is him. It was always going to be him. Magnus Carlsen, the undisputed king of speed chess, wins the Champions Chess Now Finals.
And you hear Wesley say something towards Magnus?
Oh, yeah.
He's asking.
Yeah, they were discussing their opening. It's all about the chess for these guys, but relief on Magnus Carlsen's face. We saw it. Suddenly a smile, and he deserves every moment. Handshake there from Judith, our arbiter. He is the champion. But Wesley, so...
Dollar smile if you're Magnus Carlsen, because you just made bank. You take first place, you get